Good morning, everybody. Check this out. See if I can get this guy on camera. Can you see him working? You see all those bees working? Look at them. Collecting. Why am I showing you this? There's a reason. That's the example of the everything. That's the example of oneness. See, we've been kind of forced to believe that we're separate. We're not. You're part of the everything. You're one with Christ, and Christ is in everything that was made. He's the life in everything. In the first chapter of John, it says he's the light that lights all men, and nothing was made that was not made through him. He lights all men. He is the life that lights all men. Okay. All men? You mean the Muslim? You mean the Buddhist? You mean the atheist? You mean the Satanist? You mean all of that? Yeah, all of it. See, that's why all this separateness and the division, that's all of the devil. We're all one down here. The reason why I show you those bees is because we look at the bee and then we look at the flower and we go, man, that's awesome. Do you get it? They're the same. Where there are flowers, you will find bees, and where there are bees, you will find flowers. And if there are no bees, there will be no flowers. And if there are no flowers, there will be no bees. It's all interconnected, but we force ourselves into a place of separateness. Okay, so we know he's the light that lights all men. In his word, it's said to you over and over again, nothing can separate me from you. No one can pluck you from my hand. I will not leave you nor forsake you. You and I are one. Christ, the hope of glory. He lives in you, right? We all get that. Okay. Do we believe it? He lives in you. He's here. He's in everything. And all the people who claim him as their king are waiting for him to come back. Wake up, people. It's the everything. Why do you think he's separate? I'll tell you why. Because it's been being told to you forever, and this is not a knock on the Catholic Church at all. They were just the first real powerful church that had their thing going on. And it's definitely in all the other churches as well. But when you go into a church and you see a bruised, battered, disgustingly smashed Jesus up on a cross, up on the back of a stage behind an orator, you're made to sit down and focus on the fear, the control, and the guilt that's put in you by that man smashed on the cross. And he is always an external being that has went through all of these things for you, but he's on the outside and you are separate. They keep you focused on his flesh. You're not separate. You're one. He lives in you. He's in everything. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. There is no separateness. When you start to realize that he lives in you and he lives in everyone else that's around you, those people that now you want to lash out at, remember, you're lashing out at Christ who lives in them, who they have not allowed to wake up yet because they're too sold out to this world and what it offers them. They are blinded by the God of this world. They are blinded by the God of this world. But Christ lives in them. So those of you who are supposedly not blinded by the God of this world and are awake to Christ and are still lashing out at all those people who are asleep in Christ. Did you catch that? Asleep in Christ? Yeah. I'm just going to spit this statement out real quick. You're born into death. You're not born into life. You have to wake up into life now. You don't want to taste the second death? Good. Die the first death right now while you walk around. That's a death to self. Good luck with that one. So again, he's not separate. He lives in you. He is not separate. And don't stay so attached to the things of the flesh, even his flesh. You know, I have some friends and even some family that deal with issues with some people that are the Hebrew Israelites, and they say, well, our path is the correct path, and they link it back to their flesh. It's for the black, the Hispanic, and the American Indian. Come on, I'm Choctaw. Did you know that? I'm Choctaw Indian, so I'm going to have this conversation because I don't want nothing to do with your little tribe. I understand. Let's pretend for a minute, and easy there, Pharisees, with the blaspheming. Let's pretend for a minute that I am Christ walking around in his flesh. Okay, so if I am Christ walking around in his flesh, is anyone else's flesh on this planet going to be closer to his real flesh? No way, not possible. Now listen to what he says about his own flesh in John 6:63. Let me set the scene. He's dealing again with people that are following but not sure if they can, and they're Pharisees. So this is where he says, listen, if you don't eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you will not share in this. Now this is an issue for them. First off, they're so carnal. They're like, well, we don't think he can't be meaning eat his flesh. And of course he's not. That's the taking into the word, the real meat of who he is. So you got to eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. And the blood is the life. Drink of my life, right? Okay. The reason why he was saying that to them is because there is definitely a very hard and fast law in the Torah. You do not eat the blood. So hard and fast that it's one of the 4 things that Peter said, you'd do good if you actually went ahead and did these. Even though I never told the Gentiles to ever follow Moses' law, you do well to follow these 4 things. Look those up. It's good. But one of them is don't eat the blood. So when he said that to them, they had a real hard time with that. They're like, what is he talking about here? Yeah, but it's even deeper than that. Okay? Because when he was talking there and he said, eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, he said it more than once. So he keeps telling them, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, or you don't share in this. And then in John 6:63, because everyone's left now, and all of the other ones that were following have left. Only the disciples are left. Ooh, this is nice. So only the disciples are left there. In John 6:63. Okay, part of why this was so challenging is because if you go into the original text, he kept referring to his flesh as sarx and sarka. Sarx and sarka. They're 2 different types of flesh. None of this comes through in the translation that we read, but there were many times where he was saying, hey, you have to share in the marital flesh, because there's 2 types of flesh. There's the flesh that is this filthy flesh that we wear, and then there's also a spiritual union flesh, like the blending of husband and wife when the 2 flesh become one. That's a spiritual flesh. So there's sarx and sarka, and he was talking about them both the whole way through. But then after they've all left, because now they're going, sarka, you want us to share with you in the marital flesh? Come on, bro, this is hard to understand. So now they've all walked away, only the disciples are left, and he's like, so you guys are going to stay? And they're like, yeah, where are we going to go? So John 6:63, listen to this very closely. It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit, and they are life. But there are some of you who do not believe. Yeah, you better not be attached to your flesh, because if he's telling you in context, as he's talking, he's going, this flesh matters not. It's the words that I speak. They are truth. They are life. That's the blood you better be sharing in. The words that he speaks, they are truth. They are life. You're one with everything and one with him, because he's in everything. Now when you think about who it is that you want to look at and do harm or whatever to, you're really looking at your brother and your sister until you've taken a different estate with them, if it's a husband or wife or something like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Walk in love and understand everyone is you and you are everyone, because Christ lives in you and everyone, whether they recognize it or not. Move in love. Wake people up.